This is my favorite makeover so far, how I turned a sad rose patch into a lovely mixed border in a cottage style. Of course, it all starts with measuring the space. So that's what I did to know roughly how many plants I was gonna need and how to lay out the area. And I actually ended up keeping that L shape that we already had and just extending it so we would get even more depth in the planting. And then it was time to prepare the ground. So this is really hard clay that hadn't been touched in years. So I decided to dig in some compost. I actually should have added some more, but at the time we didn't have a car. So it was a whole thing actually to get hold of some, but I did manage to scrounge up some compost and I made the soil a little bit. So as soon as the ground was rather prepared and measured and had a rough sketch of the plants that I wanted to keep and everything that I wanted to add, it was time to pick a color scheme and an overall planting scheme. I really love a cottage garden, so I picked some plants and colors that would fit with that style. So typically I really adore pinks and pale lavender. So I needed to pick plants that would sustain that and also pick a planting style and plants that would fit in it. I absolutely love a cottage style, and I think adding around the roses and make it feel a bit less formal and more lush was really the way to go. And I didn't know what color the roses were, but I thought they might very well be either pink or white. So I built my color scheme around that, and I really wanted the pale pink, the pale lavender, but also some deeper accents like maroon and this really dark red color. And I even prepared an Excel spreadsheet with all the months and the different varieties that I was picking to have blooms throughout the season. I think that's really important when you're planning a new space, is that making sure you have blooms throughout or interest throughout, either from your foliage or from your blooms. That's really paramount to me, just to make this space interesting year round. So I made sure also to add some grasses. So for plants, I did two things. For perennials, I bought plug plants and repotted them so that they would grow on, and that's a really cost-efficient way to fill up a border. And the second thing that I did is start seeds for my annuals, things like cosmos, like nasturtium, like nicotiana. Anything that's fast growing and will, flower and die within the season is really worth starting from seed, again, because it's cost effective and also because most of those varieties are extremely easy to grow. They grew extremely quickly, and just within a month, those little plug plants were already flowering. And just within a couple of months already, the border was flourishing really nicely. Now we've come a full year later, and while some things did perish sadly because of the soil or just because some things don't work out, a lot of the plants are now thriving. We're having blooms from the digitalis, the talectrum is coming back. A lot of the perennials also succeeded. I can see my yarrow and the aster. I did do a few edits. I added a couple more grasses. I added some lupins at the back, but mostly we're left with the plants that I first planted there, including some dahlias that overwintered really nicely and are already starting to bud up. We did get also some blooms from the hardy geraniums that we planted there, and the plants are still growing, so that's really good. Everything right now is so full of life and so lush. I couldn't be more pleased with how the project turned out, and now is still a good time. You still have a little bit of time before the really crazy summer temperatures set in. Or you could also wait until autumn, which is also an amazing time to start a flower bed because your plants will have time to settle in before winter. And now I'm actually thinking that I might do the sister flower bed, but that will be a bit more shaded. So I'm gathering up strength because it is a lot of work to dig up a new border and to plant a lot of things, but it's definitely worth it. If you want to know more about all the details and all the planning and the different steps that went into creating this border, check out my border makeover series. I have 3 episodes in the series where I go into details into all the planning and the plant choice and all the tips to sow seeds. So I hope you find it helpful and that you're inspired to start a new border this season. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye!